The world of The Boys is packed with superheroes with some pretty amazing superpowers. And as you desperately try to run for cover to stop your head from exploding, you might forget what supes we've seen so far and what their powers are. Today's video is breaking down all the known supes from The Boys and just how dangerous they actually are. Just be warned, there will be spoilers for Season 2. I'll talk about their powers, their weaknesses, and everything in between, so go ahead and grab that fresca and let's get started. Black Noir is one of the most interesting members of the Seven, which is surprising since he's definitely the least talkative. But it's his mysterious nature that makes him so appealing, and over the course of 2 seasons, we've slowly learned more about his powers and abilities. He's super strong, has amazing reflexes and agility, and is supposedly fast enough to outrun a car. He also apparently has a massive healing factor and pain suppression hybrid. He can be shot, impaled, or exploded and still be just fine. Who knows if these injuries are actually causing him pain or not, because he certainly hasn't said anything about it. For a while, he looked unstoppable, but the end of Season 2 revealed that he does have one major weakness, a nut allergy. Queen Maeve incapacitated him pretty easily by forcing an almond joy down his throat, which is something The Boys needs to remember later on. Homelander is the most powerful superhero in the world, which in turn makes him the scariest. Think Superman-level powers only in the hands of a complete narcissistic psycho. He's tremendously strong, shown to be invulnerable to just about everything, is a fast enough flyer to break the sound barrier, has heat vision that has turned many individuals into puddles of goo, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. That already seems way too OP. But add in things like superhuman hearing, which is good enough to detect heartbeats, and a sense of smell so enhanced that he can tell when people are afraid, and that's just icing on the cake. So how do you beat someone like him? Well, he does have a few minor weaknesses. He can't see through zinc, whatever that's worth, and can be annoyed by loud sonic frequencies. But I would say his biggest weakness is his insecurities. If you can find a way to blackmail him where the end result is people loving him less, then you essentially have him in the palm of your hand. To put Starlight's powers simply, as she said before, electricity goes in, blast comes out. Pretty simple, right? Starlight's main power is that she can absorb ambient electricity from sources around her to release focused blasts of light. They're powerful blasts that can stun just about everyone. Already that makes her a valuable asset in any fight. But just to add a bit more, she also has superhuman strength that allows her to lift thousands of pounds, and an extreme durability, so when heroes like Black Noir throw her through concrete columns, she's more or less fine, though her powers do come with one major weakness. If there's no electricity around her, then her light powers are basically useless. She needs a source to draw energy from, so if you ever want to go out and fight her, then you better bring an EMP or something. Of course, you'd still have to deal with the superhuman strength, so good luck. Stormfront is shockingly powerful. Okay, too easy. Okay, that was the only electricity pun, I swear. But still, I just want to emphasize how strong she is. She can shoot electricity out of her fingers that will most likely kill you if you're not a main character on the show. And she uses the electricity in a whole variety of different ways. Like, she can use electricity as a sort of telekinesis and move objects around with her blasts. And it seems like on some level, her electricity powers give her the ability to fly. On top of that, she's incredibly durable and is one of the rare individuals who can withstand Homelander's laser blasts, but she's not indestructible. Besides Ryan turning her into a burnt marshmallow, Gekko was able to stab her eye with a knife, showing not every part of her was indestructible. In a huge twist, it was revealed in The Boys Season 2 finale that Congresswoman Victoria Neuman was the head popper. So far, her power is pretty straightforward. She sees a head she wants to pop, and then boom, off with their heads. But is it just heads she can make explode, or could she make someone's arms or legs blow up if she wanted? These are the questions we need to know. The only downside about her power is that she looks like she needs to be looking at the person whose head she wants to pop. So get those blindfolds ready, Frenchie. Ryan is Homelander and Becca Butcher's son, and if it wasn't clear, he's quite special. Ryan is the first natural-born child of a superhero who also inherited powers. That's a pretty big deal, and that's why everyone is so obsessed with Ryan. Everyone seems to think he's strong enough to take on Homelander one day, and given how he completely annihilated Stormfront, that actually could be true. He'll probably grow up to have Homelander's same power set, only hopefully Ryan grows up normal enough where he wants to truly use his powers for good. If not, we'll just have another Homelander on our hands, and I don't think the world can take it. Queen Maeve is often called the second most powerful member of the Seven, second only to Homelander, and I believe it. She's like a more conflicted version of Wonder Woman, as she has superhuman strength, durability, speed, agility, and reflexes. Homelander once mentioned how Maeve once threw a pen into a man's eye, even though she was 78 feet away. That's pretty crazy. For someone like her to be so afraid of Homelander really puts into perspective how scary Homelander can be. If you're looking for weakness in Queen Maeve, unfortunately she has one of those things most other superheroes don't seem to have, and that's a heart. She is starting to care more and more about the people around her, and bad guys could easily use the people she cares about as leverage. Otherwise, you're probably not beating her. The deep will probably never win a fight on the land, but if you're near the ocean, oh boy, watch out. Yes, he looks and acts like he'd stick his hand inside a mousetrap if there was a piece of cheese on it, but you shouldn't discount the deep. Sure, his aquatic telepathy and ability to breathe and move underwater aren't the best powers in the world, but they're invaluable in certain situations. Say you want to save on airfare and travel across the Pacific Ocean, then Deep's powers would come in handy. Sure, that's about it, but hey, it's something. And as Butcher taught me, the Deep's biggest weakness is fast speed boats that plow right through beach whales. So yeah, maybe it's for the best if the Deep stays away from the Seven for a while. You know, he can just drink his Fresca and talk to his gills or whatever. A-Train is a speedster, plain and simple. And even though that's a relatively straightforward superpower, it's also one of the most powerful. If used correctly, super speed can't really be stopped or defended against because more likely than not, a speedster can avoid any trap or dodge any attack. And although A-Train is fast, he knows he's got to stay fast or else someone else will catch up to him. It seems in this world, the older a speedster gets, the less fast you move. And if you don't train regularly, you could become a little slower. This forced A-Train to turn to Compound V in order to get faster, but this eventually led him to suffer a heart attack, with the end result being he couldn't run as fast without hurting himself. Though by the end of Season 2, he said he'd gotten better from this condition. I'm so happy Kimiko is on our side because she'd make a terrifying opponent. Like Black Noir, she doesn't speak, but she proves how scary she is when she rips off goons' faces like they were pieces of paper. In a lot of ways, she's like Black Noir, which is probably why we saw a fight between the two of them. Kimiko has incredible strength, speed, reflexes, and agility, and while her strength is truly a marvel to behold, her best power is probably her healing ability. She's not impervious to damage, meaning she can still be gutted or have her neck broken, but her healing factor is powerful enough to heal her from anything we've seen used against her. So far, that is. I wonder how she would do against Homelander's heat vision. The Lamplighter can control fire with his mind and use it to burn his enemies to a crisp. And that sounds cool, but it comes with limitations. Just like M. Night Shyamalan's terrible The Last Airbender movie, the Firebender needs a fire source in order to use his ability. In Season 2, Lamplighter carries around a lighter which he uses to produce flames. But when he was a member of the Seven, he would carry around a large staff with a lamp in it that would allow him to create flames. He also has a pretty big weakness in the fact that he can hurt himself with his own flames, as evidenced by his fiery demise. That's a huge weakness. The guy who can control fire isn't immune to fire? That's like if Starlight blinded herself every time she used her powers. What is there to say about Love Sausage and still make this a pretty safe for work video? Well, let's just say Love Sausage is a unique superhero who seems to have one incredibly strong appendage that he can control at will like a snake. He can make it grow and use it for a powerful weapon. But him and his weapon are still susceptible to pain and standard attacks. Just ask Mother's Milk. We didn't get a lot of Love Sausage in the second season, but due to popularity, he might be back for Season 3. So what are Translucent's abilities? The simple answer is that he turns invisible. But as he told Jimmy Fallon, the more technical way to explain it is that his skin turns into a carbon metamaterial that bends the light and grants him basically an invisibility cloak. But there's an added benefit to his power. It makes his skin practically impenetrable. As they say, his skin is diamond hard, so good luck finding something that can impale him. But as we know, thanks to Season 1, not all of Translucent's body is protected. If you were to get something inside of him, like a bomb, you could end his life pretty easily. Yeah, Huey might know a thing or two about that. It's unclear if Eagle the Archer is an actual supe who was injected with Compound V to give him perfect accuracy, or if he's just a guy who spent a lot of time at his local archery range to beef up his skills. Either way, he does still count as a superhero. His power is his marksmanship, but of course his bow and arrow comes with some limitations. Like, arrows definitely are a finite resource if you're not careful. And if you're fighting a lot of people, you probably need to pick up your used arrows to stay in the fight. Weakness-wise, he's also proven to be susceptible to the teachings of the Church of the Collective, which means he might be an easy target to manipulate. When the boys infiltrated Sage Grove, there was one test patient who presented way more of a threat than all the others. That would be Cindy. We see Lamplighter clearly afraid of her, but it's not until those poor guards show up to try to stop her that we can see why. Cindy uses the power of telekinesis to great effect. She quickly turns into one of the most dangerous supes on the show as we see her use her telekinesis to quickly explode anyone who gets in her way. And given that she's also bulletproof, that sort of implies she's incredibly difficult to stop. The only weakness she would have is maybe she walks a little slowly, but that's it. Uh-oh, that means serious trouble for anyone who gets in her way. Doppelganger was a minor character in Season 1 of The Boys who returned for Season 2 in a surprising and very creepy way. His powers include shapeshifting, meaning he can transform into anyone he wishes. This makes him incredibly valuable to people like Madeline, who used him for blackmail, and Homelander, who used him for Homelander issues. But given what we saw, he can't stay in the form forever. If he stays too long, it starts to really hurt him. Yeah, he's not around anymore thanks to Homelander, which is probably for the best, because we got to the point where Doppelganger turned into Homelander and tried to seduce Homelander, which obviously didn't go so well. Ezekiel played an important role in Season 1, where he helped the boys eventually find information on Vought's Compound V shipments. But getting the information out of him wasn't easy. As a supe, Ezekiel has the power of elasticity, meaning he can elongate and stretch any part of his body, Mr. Fantastic style. It's a cool ability, but too bad Ezekiel proved to be such a horrible human being. Fighting someone with elasticity is difficult because their skin is malleable. But Ezekiel does have a clear weakness: blackmail. His public persona and private persona are very different. And if anyone ever found out the things he was doing, it would ruin his reputation, which makes it very easy for people like Huey to get info out of him. For someone who can read thoughts, it's kind of ironic that Mesmer wasn't thinking too clearly when he betrayed Butcher and the boys to Homelander. But anyway, Mesmer was a celebrity supe who had his own television show called The Mesmerizer. It reflected his real-life abilities, where he could read minds through physical contact. This is an incredibly useful power. Nobody would ever be able to keep a secret again. So of course, ultimately, he had to go. And even though this is an amazing power, it doesn't do much in a fight. In a way, it's sort of sad. Mesmer reads Butcher's thoughts during their fight, but then is powerless to stop Butcher's face-smashing attack. At least he knew it was coming, right? Popclaw was A-Train's secret girlfriend, who was also addicted to Compound V. Her main power is her retractable claws, which she's able to retract from her wrists to use as weapons. She also has increased strength, which is pretty standard amongst these supes, and when she's on Compound V, she becomes even stronger, but also a little more unhinged. And she's able to show the true dangers of Compound V when her less controlled but stronger state ended up poorly for Popclaw's landlord. On the plus side, technically, Popclaw was the show's first head popper before Victoria Neuman. One of the best scenes in the whole show occurs when Butcher uses a super baby with laser eyes to absolutely mow down his enemies with relative ease. It's such a great explanation for when you try to tell your friends to watch The Boys. So you say, okay, there's a super angry Carl Urban and he goes around cutting people in half with a baby who shoots lasers from his eyes. Doesn't that sound awesome? We don't know much about the super baby, but given what we saw, he could grow up to be one of the most powerful heroes ever. You never know. At the end of Season 1 of The Boys, it looked like there was a dangerous new villain on the horizon. With Homelander leaking the Compound V formula overseas, it led to the creation of Naqib, whose purpose was to convince the US government to let supers into the military. His powers included self-detonation, which allowed him to become basically a bomb that incinerated everyone around him. So how do you fight someone like that? Well, you send in someone who that wouldn't affect that much. Black Noir tracked down Naqib and easily withstood his energy blast. And then after that, he proved Naqib's biggest weakness: Apparently, it's hard to survive if your head is separated from the body. It must be tough to be a speedster. You have to continuously train or else another speedster will come along and take your spot. Shockwave was A-Train's biggest rival, and now that he's gone, we can comment on what a sad life he lived. For starters, he always came in second to a juiced up A-Train in races. And right when he got good news that he would be part of the 7, his head popped like a grape. Guess he isn't running around anymore. And we didn't get too much time with the character, so it's unfortunate things ended so quickly for him. Gekko is a supe who definitely used his powers to his advantage. The Season 2 character had a unique type of healing regeneration, where he could regrow his body parts as soon as they were severed. It's unclear just how much of him can heal, but given the fact that he charged a little extra for his clients to cut off certain private parts of his body, that seems to suggest practically everything can grow back. It doesn't look like he has any enhanced strength or speed though, which is probably why he mainly uses his power for monetary gain. Poor Blindspot. The blind superhero was all set to join the 7 until Homelander got in the way. Blindspot's abilities are basically like Daredevil's powers, where he's obviously blind, but his other senses are extremely heightened, and he can see people using his enhanced hearing. He also was an incredibly skilled martial artist, though after Homelander ruptured both his eardrums, it left Blindspot in a bit of a tough situation. We'd like to wish him well, but I don't know if he can hear us now. What supe do you think has the most underrated power? Which supe is your favorite? Let us know in the comments below and be sure to hit that subscribe button for more awesome The Boys content like this. Thanks for watching CBR, see you next time.